Welcome to Financial Investing Radio, where you'll learn the secrets for consistent, high-probability returns in the financial markets for additional income to change your life. Grant applies consistent, high-probability trading systems for the financial markets. He's only recently started sharing these tried and true market secrets. As a gift to listeners, Grant is offering his roadmap to high-probability financial control. Go to financialinvestingradio.com and download yours today. Now, here's your host and trading veteran, Grant Larson.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. This is Grant. Hey, recently I was on a airplane flight out of Seattle. And if you've taken that before, you've seen this, I'm sure, before. But we passed right next to Mount St Helens, and its peak was jettisoning into the sunlight. It was just gorgeous. The base of the mountain was covered in clouds, but the actual peak itself was shooting up through the clouds, and the sun was going down, and it was just hitting that peak. It was such a stunning sight. As I was just taking in the scene, I was in awe at the beauty, of that snow-capped peak. It turns out that the person sitting next to me stated that he had just been on that peak a week earlier, and it began to describe the preparations that he and his team had done, the gear they took, the precautions that they considered. As I listened to that, it got me thinking about the financial climb that each of us make. There are multiple steps up the financial mountain, which represents different levels of our financial state and awareness, including, and there's 8 here that I've listed. It doesn't mean that there's only 8, but it's a way to categorize and organize our thinking and to do a little introspection on where we are and what's the next step. So here's the 8. Number 1. We might be in a state that we are unaware of our financial position. That's possible, right? That we really don't have much organization around our financial picture or what we're doing. And so I call that being unaware financially. Number 2, we are aware of our financial state, but we're missing some tools. In this case, we know that there's either problems or challenges, but we don't know what everything is that we need to do in order to overcome those things. Number 3, we are doing we're using some tools like budgeting. So we're doing some budgeting, but we are not in a position to be saving or growing to the future. So we're starting to build on some of our tools, but we still have a ways to go. That's number 3. Number 4, we're doing some saving. So we've got some budgeting going on, we got some saving going on, but we're not doing anything to grow or magnify our resources. Number 5, we're doing some passive investing, such as a 401k, right? We might take some of our money, invest it, put it into some financial instruments, but we're not actively involved with it. We just put the money there and sort of forget about it. Number 6, we are actively investing in the markets, or perhaps something else like real estate, but we are building on top of the other steps, right? We've got some financial organization, some saving taking place, some budgeting and control, as well as we are investing actively in moving into and out of different kinds of positions. Number 7, we are in fact doing some self-directed investing at this point. So here we're making some decisions in terms of the market. We might be taking on some long-term positions. In this particular case, you might be buying some stock or whatever that might be. There's several instruments to use to help us do that. But we do that over a long period of time, and we move in and out of positions. Then number 8, we are going all the way into very short-term trading, even doing intra-day trading. And that, of course, requires even a different level of participation. Now, there's certainly beautiful views along the way, to stay with our mountain metaphor. There's wonderful vistas on the way up this financial mountain. But it's important to note that you don't need to ascend all the way to number 8, right? The intent is not to ultimately make everyone become an intra-day trader. In fact, there's wonderful benefits to achieving control over our budgets, back on step number 4 and be doing some saving. That's critical that we just get to that point right there. And each of us has to decide how far we're going to climb on this mountain and to meet our objectives. Now, I'm going to advocate for getting yourself into a position to begin magnifying your resources, at least through some level of investing. The intent is to have some form of investing, whether it's passive or whatever it might be, at least get to the point where there's some financial control, some growth that you're doing with savings, and you're in a position to then be able to do some kind or level of investing. So where are you on these 8 levels that I'd mentioned, and how far are you trying to climb? I'd like to know. Now, one of the tricks to climbing mountains that I've experienced is called a false summit. And as you know, this occurs when we see a peak ahead of us, and our brain tells us that this is the top of the mountain. I've experienced this, especially when you get to high altitude locations. We've done a fair amount of backpacking in the Rocky Mountains, and we'll get to a spot where all of a sudden we realize we are at the top. At least that's what our brain says, and the oxygen levels are running low. Anyway, you get mentally prepared for being at the peak, and then as you arrive, you realize this is not the top of the mountain. And as we approach and get at that false summit, our euphoria converts into disappointment. And it's at this point that you realize that the climb up the mountain is a mental battle. And so it is with the financial, right? We tell ourselves we can't do it. We can't keep going. We turn around and we begin making some decisions that in fact are not to our benefit, things that are not going to be useful, and we end up making some financial commitments or choices or use our money in a way that in fact causes us to walk back down the mountain, and then we're not going to enjoy the benefits of getting further up that mountain. Now, perhaps the climb is to go from a position of where we're not saving any money to where we are saving money. But to do this, we need to sacrifice some near-term want or desire in order to achieve your goal, to get to the next level. Perhaps you're preparing to begin investing, but you're making a decision on using your saved resources to do something else. Now, each of us has to decide whether we are at a false summit in our financial mountain, and if we're going to move on to the next level, or are we going to lose some financial control and walk the other direction. So whatever you do, get a climbing partner, right, to help you establish your climbing goals. How far up are we going to go on this mountain? And then identify where you're on the climb. It's difficult to be able to do some kind of investing when our daily or monthly financial picture is not under control. So thank you so much for joining, and until next time, set your financial goals that takes you from where you are to the next level.
Thank you for joining Grant on Financial Investing Radio. Remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Don't forget to download your free roadmap to high probability financial control before you make an investment decision. Visit financialinvestingradio.com now.